Hi, everyone. Is this working? Yes. OK, cool. Thank you so much for hanging around for the end of Play-by-Play. It's been a wonderful event. I want to thank all the organizers. You've done an amazing job in putting this together, and I'm so appreciative, so thank you so much. And to all the speakers, you've all done an amazing job. So yeah, good job, everyone. So thank you for the lovely introduction. I am Pritika Sachdev. That's me. I represent Checkpoint. Checkpoint is a nonprofit that provides mental health resources for the gaming community. So we come around to cons like this, and we speak to developers like you all, and we provide a chill-out space like we have today. We also go to consumer-based events like PAX, and we also do a whole lot of online things, and I'm mostly going to be talking about the online space today. Just on Checkpoint, we've also got a developer handbook that we've just released, which is a AAA handbook. It's for studios and bettering your studio's mental health. So that is available for purchase. So if you want to make your way to the registration after this talk, if you're interested in what we do, I believe Jen will be there. Yep, she's got a hand up at the front. And she will be there to tell you more about it and have handbooks on hand. There we go. So that's me. That's Checkpoint. We've done that. Cool. There we go. What is a positive community? I was wondering that myself after I put together this talk, and I'm like, I actually didn't define what a positive community. So I'm going to go with what I believe a positive community is. And one thing I want to get out of the way is that it's not a happy space, necessarily. It's not always a happy space. It's supposed to be a place where that has respect, inclusion, and empathy. It encourages open dialogue and encourages us to reflect and grow. And that is something that I've taken into account when forming GamerMates, which is Checkpoint's online community. So here we go. Here's GamerMates. I'm going to go into the technical side of what it means to form a community, specifically an online community. I'm going to look specifically at Discord, because that's the platform that we use, and that's the platform that has been the most positively received and the one that has a lot of growth. So GamerMates was formed in late 2017. It was formed mainly at the time to be a space that we got a whole lot of people who were interested in our web series to have a chat with. Then we realized that we needed to keep them around after our web series was launched as well. So initially we tried to be 3 different spaces. We tried to have a forum, we tried to have a Steam community, and we tried to have a Discord. 3 spaces entered, 1 survived. And that was our Discord. And initially, I hadn't used Discord before GamerMates happened, so it was a bit of a learning curve for me, and I'll go into what I learned. I didn't really know it other than it was a popular platform, and I believe because it was a popular platform, that's why it survived, essentially. Our forums died very early on, within the first 2 months of us launching it. I tried to keep conversations going, they just didn't work. We had a Steam community that rapidly declined, specifically after a lot of our video content was taken off, because I think Steam took off video content a couple of months ago. And Discord was the one that people just needed 1 login for. They could be there, they could be anywhere else at the time, but they felt part of us. So I think that's what kept us going. And it also scales well if you know what procedures to put into place, which I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know Discord. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I was very, very lucky to be in a workspace that allowed me to mess around a bit and try and make things work. I was also very, very lucky to have help. I'm going to champion one of our lead mods, AJ, who came in from the very beginning and was like, hey, I've built a Discord community. Do you need some help? And I was like, yes, please. So we had a few chats about structure and what it means to have structure. I think it's also important here to know what advice to take and know what advice to leave. He and a lot of others, like gamers coming to you and being like, I know how to design a game, We have a lot of people who come to us and be like, I know what a community is, let me design your community for you. I had a lot of people in the beginning being like, I want to make this into the space that I want it to be, and I'm like, no, that's not how you create a positive space for everyone. You can't just cater it to one type of person. It has to be inclusive for all. So we basically, I think the most important thing to know that when you are building a community from the ground up, know that this is your community. You have the chance to implement rules and regulations that provide empathy, that provide respect, and you also have a chance to build it from the ground up, essentially. So I think it's really important to know what to take. I'm going to go into our channel structure here. We've got our welcome area. This is all implemented in the last 6 months or so. We had our initial channels way back when, but it's grown. We've got a lot of categories now. We've got the voice chats. We used to have 3 voice chats. Now we just have 1. And we've got the checkpoint stuff for all our web stuff. We've got general and mental health. All right, that's getting a bit bigger. We've got GamerMates, just for people to hang out and talk about games and stuff. Okay, we've gone into GamerMates first-person shooters. Okay, there's creative games, and hey, there's Game of the Month. And, oh, there's a testing ground for new channels. All right. And then there's our staff channels. That's a lot of channels. That's a lot of content that people consume immediately as soon as they see our server. It is a lot to take in. I get overwhelmed by it at times. I also enjoy that there is separate channels for everything. We have a lot of people asking for more channels constantly. We have a lot of people asking for less channels. I think it's up to you to try and find that balance. It's really important to be able to know, again, I can't tell you what works for you potentially, but it's really important to acknowledge that people like separation, and people also like niche things. We have a few channels. I think you can see in the testing ground, we've got the racing games channels, the point and click, the retro games. Those are all niche gaming communities that don't necessarily get a lot of love within our community anymore. So it's also important to know when to let things go. We've got a few users who don't use that anymore, so I'm looking at retiring those channels. I think, yeah, as I've said, look at what you want to achieve, and I think you'll be able to create a thriving community. All right, rules and recruiting. Rules are really, really important. This is just a screenshot, again, from our Discord. I don't know how clear the text is, but again, you can find this on our Discord. You've got our do's, you've got our be mindful of, and you've got our nevers. I'm going to focus on the nevers for a bit. Know when to enforce your rules. It is really easy. We have talked about this throughout the conference, and specifically in the last talk. It's really easy for toxicity to seep in. Know when to put down your foot and ban a person, because that will just spread. People will get hurt in the process. We have had that happen. We have had one of our servers been destroyed because of that. Know when to ban, know when to enforce those rules. It might seem easy. It isn't. I'm a person who doesn't like conflict. I find it really hard to enforce these rules. And I also think it's really important to let your mods know, like if you have respected, trusted mods around you, again, surrounding yourself with people who can help you, they need to know when to ban. And on that note, you have to keep documentation. Keep documentation about your mods, the people that you recruit. Keep documentation about the people who may be problematic, or maybe you've had to kick out of your server just because it was just getting too hard to keep them around. It's also really important to know when someone is growing in your environment and someone is just not listening to your message. In a positive space, you want people to be able to grow. You want people to be able to learn from their mistakes. I think there's a tendency now to have to cancel people. Cancel culture is a big thing online. I've seen it happen constantly. It makes me nervous. I don't like seeing it happen. So it's really important to let, people may say things out of ignorance, and I think it's important to respectfully tell them, look, this is why what you're saying is hurtful. This is why you might need a trigger warning on your content because someone else is getting hurt. If they see that message, and it may take a long time, but if they do see that message and they go, okay, I think I'm starting to understand, you can kind of see those seeds of growth and that empathy. Again, we all come from different cultures. All of us were born in different places. It's really important to not kick someone out before they've learnt a lesson. That being said, trolls will be trolls. They will hurt you, and they will use that empathy of yours to hurt you. So I think it's really important to, just know when to get that hammer and just get them out of there as soon as possible. With recruiting, this is our welcome page. We've got, a whole bunch of rules that we want people to be involved with, to understand especially. We've got three main roles that we recruit for, mods, support members, and events. We've also got, when people enter our server, we don't just allow them straight into the whole server. I think before you may have seen, oh, you can see it there. There's a whole bunch of locks on Discord. So if you've never used Discord, those are ways that you know that those channels aren't public. We've got a verified tag. So whenever anyone enters, at this stage we are doing it manually just because we can kind of control who gets to see our content, and we get to erase trolls really easily as well. Some people will just come into your server and spam just because they can, just because they want to. It could be a bot. But we've got a process. You can see that you have to type in, I have read and agreed to the rules in the Verify Me channel. And people will do that, and we'll verify them as soon as possible. And then they'll be a part of our community. If they don't do that, it's very simple. We just don't allow them into our community. And that is, again, to protect ourselves and to protect our other users. Our mods, our support members, and our events hosts get a similar kind of guide as this welcome mat, but there's a lot more to it. We basically go and ask people, like, what do you want to get out of this community? Do you want to help people? How do you want to help people? We get a lot of volunteers very keen to do something and then freak out when they realize that actual responsibility is involved with that. Championing those people who are ready to accept that responsibility is really, really important, and celebrate your mods is really, really important, even if it's just a little acknowledgement in one of the channels being like, hey, you did a really good job today, or even direct messaging them. That's, I think, super important. Mods, they basically go and they keep our servers safe, essentially. Our support members are there. We have this role because we are a mental health nonprofit. They are there to listen to someone if they are going through a hard time. You can see that we've got our, you can't see it there, but we have got a little mental health discussions channel for if someone is going through a rough time. They can reach out to one of us, or they can reach out to our support members. Events are probably the hardest things that we've been able to recruit for, because that involves time and an allotted time of commitment. It's not something that you can just kind of jump in and out of, or just be there when needed. Events takes a lot of management, and that's something that we're trying to grow currently. Yeah, I think that was all that I wanted to say on that slide. So when recruiting, look out for people who will take responsibility for you, because they are essentially going to be wearing your brand. They're going to be representing you. Yeah, look out for people who will take that responsibility and do a good job. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Events. We run a whole bunch of events. Events are great for building a community. I love events. I love going to I'm from Melbourne, so I went to IGA Melbourne back in the day. I think you have a local event here called Wellington, if I'm correct. I believe so. Yes, there's nods. Excellent. Yeah, events are great. They bring a community together. Obviously, we're not developer-focused We don't do those kind of developer events. We'd host a whole bunch of online events. We've got Stardew Valley, which Jen runs, I run the Overwatch events. Our lead mod, AJ, runs Tabletop Simulator. We've got our Twitch, and we've got our Game of the Month, which I also run. Events are an investment, as I was saying before, but they pay off really, really well because you can see people starting to come together. Even if they don't talk in voice chat, they may start engaging in the community a bit more by typing. They may start chatting to the community a little bit more. It's really, really wonderful to see these seeds kind of grow and flourish and come together and just start chatting. You see friendships form, essentially, and it's really wonderful. I was really worried about instigating conversation initially because I was like, oh, if I'm not talking, someone else might feel like they can't talk, and you fall into that rut of thinking about it constantly. And you're like, oh, who's going to fill in the silence? Oh no, it's all awkward. That happens. Unfortunately, it does. We're all human. I overthink constantly, but it happens. It's okay. Again, as like a natural friendship and relationship starts to grow, you start to get more comfortable around each other. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that and allow that to happen. Twitch can be really scary. If it may seem like streaming is really inaccessible, it's not really. You can just do voice, or you can just screen cap your computer and screen record your computer and share that. I believe that Twitch is really important, again, for bringing your community together. We play games. We have about 18 streamers that we've recruited to our Checkpoint channel now. Not all of them are active, and the reason why we have so many is we want to have one on there at least each day of the week. But we're also a mental health community, and we also have a lot of people who talk about mental health and maybe triggering subjects on their streams, and we want them to feel protected and safe as well. So we allow for a lot of downtime between streams. If you can have someone who is your events manager or your streaming manager in your team, even if you're not confident enough to do it yourself, that's totally fine. Have someone that's going to champion your community, and let them be involved, because they will take it to even greater heights. One community that I keep on looking to is League of Geeks back in Melbourne. I think what they've done with their community by involving them in their Twitch streams and involving them in their, I think they do like competitive events with their community, I think is really awesome, because it lets people feel like they're involved. If you're still developing your game and you don't know how to get people involved, you don't have to. People don't have to feel like they're developing for you, but I think it's important that they are part. They know that they're part, or they feel like they're part of the development process. They feel like they're part of something that you're creating. That doesn't mean that you hand over the keys to them. That just means that you allow them to kind of peek behind the curtain a little bit and see the personification of what's going on. That will really just humanize what's happening. What can you get from a positive community? Friendship, always friendship. But like we're all devs. We're all trying to build brands. We're all trying to get our products out there as well. It can build brand loyalty. You get a lot of people who are more likely to keep coming back to you if they know that they are safe in your little space that they have crafted. If they know that they've been able to cultivate friendships, you'll get a lot of growth. Like a positive workspace that supports its devs, a positive community will support its consumers. You will see people take on a lot of responsibility. Again, that's what happened with our mods. And it'll start conversations as well for things that may be happening in the greater community. It's really great to see people grow and overcome their unconscious biases as well. And you'll get advocates for your product. I mean, again, you're wanting to start a business, you want to know that people are out there happy to be happy to advocate for your product, happy to advocate for your space, whatever you're trying to create. You want to know that there are people out there. you also get really nice things and quotes like this. You get people saying that being part of GamerMates means that I have a bunch of like-minded people to talk about my favorite games with. Also, to occasionally find that compassion and empathy in times when depression is at its worst. And I'm so grateful for GamerMates because being part of this pro-mental health gaming community allows me to have fun while both giving and receiving mental health encouragement and support in a positive, inclusive environment where everyone's welcomed and valued. You get lovely sentiments from your community like this. We reached out a little while ago and asked people what they've taken, and this is the response that we got. So don't undervalue a positive space. Again, it can take a little bit of work, but it really does pay off. So we've talked a lot about looking after other people. That is a lot of emotional labor, and you can, if you're not careful, you can hurt yourself in the process. I have done that in a previous job before this, and that was really bad. So these are some lessons that I've learned from that previous job, and even from like falling into the Discord hole, into the social media hole where you feel like you can't get away. These are some tips that I've taken. Know when to put your phone away and mute notifications. I think that's really, really important that not a lot of us realize. It can be really hard, and if you're super, I don't know, if you're super hyper anxious like me and want to be online all the time, and if there's that fear of missing out almost, you want to be able to be there all the time, and that's not possible. You need sleep sometime. Like you have to go to bed. Please go to bed. If you take any away from this talk, please go to bed. Like that's good. We have a global community, which can be really, really hard to moderate, especially if you're just like one person or just one team in Australia or in New Zealand. I've had a few times where I've woken up in the morning and seen that someone has gone on a rant, and it has ended horribly. That's where your mods come in. That's where they should hopefully be online. And again, when in recruitment, ask your mods what time zone they're in and what time they are online, because they may be someone from the States, but they may be a night owl, which means they're up when you're up. Alternatively, they may be someone from New Zealand, and they may be a night they may be a night owl, so they're actually awake when the rest of the world is awake. So know what you need and when you need it, so that you don't have to wake up and see that something has happened and you're going, oh God, I have to fix all of this by myself. So I think on that note as well, to be able to look after yourself, it's to, again, be really transparent with the people who are working for you, who are volunteering their time for you. Let them know the kinds of responsibility that they have to be ready to take. Because if they're not, and that's totally fine if they're not ready, hopefully you can have a positive discussion about that and just be like, look, that's totally fine. And if they are ready, then hopefully they'll be there. They'll be able to be there for you. So, to recap, positive spaces are wholesome for a reason. Hopefully I have shown that. Again, it's supposed to foster growth and encourage people to band together, and it's also to promote inclusivity. There's a lot to set up and enforcing to do. Again, it may seem really, really daunting, but there are little steps that you can take, like making sure you have like a little welcome mat area so people know what you're all about. Having separate categories and channels for what you need. Maybe you have a development channel for what you're currently up to. Maybe you have I don't know, positive memes channel. We have a happiness and wholesome channel, I think, where people just spread the love. So, it depends on what you want out of your community, but really making sure that there is a space for people to be able to chat is super important. Events take a lot of effort, and may not always be feasible. Like, we are able to run 5 different types of events on a weekly and monthly basis, because our team is able to put the time and effort into doing that. If you are just like a solo dev, it may not be feasible, but let people know that you're available to chat with them if you're up for it. And your mental health and physical health always comes first. You are the most important person. You have to know when to look after yourself, and that takes a lot of hard work. I have taken a lot of time to know when to step back. It's a lot of reflection, and it's a lot of acknowledging what you as a person are capable of. So really try and understand. Don't try and take everything on by yourself. Again, indie devs, we're kind of encouraged to do that. Reach out to others, let them know when you're struggling, even just letting your community know, hey, I'm going to be online between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Just putting that boundary there and letting them know you'll get back to them as soon as possible, I think is really important. I'm now going to go into why a positive space is important. And as I said at the beginning, a positive space does not mean that you are happy all the time. A positive community means that you have a space to actively battle the negative in the world and find ways to heal. I watched Nanette a lot last year, and I took this quote. Hannah Gadsby in it says, "Because anger is tension, it is toxic, infectious tension, and it knows no other purpose than to spread blind hatred. And I want no part of it, because I take my freedom of speech as a responsibility, and not just because I can position myself as a victim. And just because I can position myself as a victim does not make my anger constructive. It is never constructive. Laughter is not our medicine. Stories hold our cure." Positive spaces promote and encourage people to share their stories. That is awesome. That is so exciting. You get to hear stories from different perspectives from all around the world. You know, that's what we get to do as game devs. We get to talk to people. We get to be there. We get to see their growth. Anger can lead to terrible things. We have seen that in the past month, past year, past 2 years. We have seen that. We are living it, and there are times where we want to scream and yell and get angry. And yes, we are allowed to get angry, but we need places to heal. We need places to grow. We need places to be able to cry and just let everything out and know that people are there for us. Know that we can keep going as a community, as a culture. Positive communities foster positive actions. And I believe that is why spaces like this should exist. Thank you.